Hello, my name is Starla Henderson with Fronterhouse Quilts, and today we're going to continue working with our summer sampler. We're going to start on the dogwood. It's what I call this little flower right here. It's all of these flowers, this whole quilt, I did very simple shapes, and the simple shapes can go together to make something really, really pretty, and that's what these have done. But these are basically hearts, and with a circle in the center. So that's what we're going to do today. I'm going to show you the first step in making the dogwoods. You're going to start just like we did before by tracing your pattern in reverse onto your freezer paper. So you're going to turn it over, put it on a light box, trace it in reverse. You're also going to number all of your petals, and I always go ahead and number my center just so you know that this center goes with this flower. And then you're going to iron, just like we did before, iron your freezer paper to your ironing surface, and then iron the pattern that you drew to that piece of freezer paper. Iron them really good, and that gets rid of your bubbles. Then carefully cut them out and iron them to the wrong side of your fabric. So once you get them ironed onto the wrong side of the fabric, it's time to do the gluing, which is just like we've been doing, but I'm going to show you again. It's a little different with a heart, not much, because you've got this little indent right here. And whenever you're doing any kind of an indentation, an inside curve, a little inside peak like this, you're going to clip. But unlike whenever you're doing needle turn, you're not going to clip all the way to your template. You're going to leave a few threads. You don't want to clip all that way. Then, because you need glue, and I use a glue stick for this part, and it's just a water-soluble glue, cheap glue, school glue. You're going to take it. Now, before I did this, as I was looking at my pattern, I looked at each piece and saw my overs and my unders. And all of my unders, as you can see, on my template I marked, with a little slashes, so I know I don't have to turn those edges. And I've done the rest of them, so we're just going to do this one here. You're going to get it all the way around your piece. And I'm working on a surface that's washable so that whenever I get all gunky, because you're going to get that way, you just go take it and wash it off. Now, once I have it glued, I'm going to, with my fingers, just very carefully mold those edges around. Now, when I get to the center, I take my finger and kind of do both sides of that center. Then I'm going to finish with the other portion here, the rest of these curves, and pull that in tight around where your swoop, where your edges are that aren't turned. You want that to be tight. Now, there's some little pointies here, some little point that come out when you do this. So that takes my cuticle stick, and it also helps to stick this down, and I just smooth those out, pulling everything tight as I go, making sure it's laying the way I want it to. Just like that. It doesn't take very long. And that's how I do the heart part of the flower. And then after I get it smoothed the way I want, I'm going to take an iron that's out of screen here, and I'm just going to touch it with the iron, and it just dries that glue, and it stays where I put it. Now, once again, for the center, I do the center just a little bit different. Let me find my magic pen. There it is. Like I said last year, I bought this at an art supply store. It is a watercolor pen brush that you put your watercolor paint into this tube, and it squeezes out onto the brush. And it's great for applying starch. It's like a starch pen. And these are very inexpensive. I think I paid $3. They're about $1 a piece. And you get 3 of them in a package, where I bought them anyway. I'm going to move my thing. I want this on my pressing surface. I have taken the circle that I actually, even though there's a circle on your pattern, you can make a better circle if you go to an office supply store, and let me find mine real quick, and buy a, it's in the drafting section, a circle template. And they come in all different sizes. They're relatively inexpensive, and you can just take this and whichever size is closest to your pattern, go ahead and use it. It doesn't have to be absolutely exact, but when you make your circle on your paper with this, it's a smooth circle and it just works better. Then you're going to carefully cut it out, and I iron it to the wrong side of my fabric, and then with a needle and thread I take a running stitch, making tiny stitches. Once you've got that done, you're going to paint. Whoop! I really squeezed that out. Just paint your edges with your pen, and then I very carefully, and I hold this, I've tied my thread. Tie it in the back. That helps you gather these around, just one, one wrap, one tie, not a knot, just one overhand tie. And hold this so that you can pull it evenly around till you get it started, and then you're going to pull it tight, okay? And look and make sure you're pretty smooth all the way around, and you can kind of move those gathers as you need to. Takes a little bit of practice. Then I'm going to hold my thread stiff. I hold it, keep my fingers out of the way. Anytime you're working with an iron, you do have to be careful. And then I'm going to take this and I'm just going to dry it with this iron. Okay? And I'm going to press it on both sides, because you do, especially when you accidentally squirt too much water out of that, you're going to get some starch on the bottom too. And I'm just going to keep doing that, and I'm going to dry this starch with my iron. Now, as I said last time, I will then, when I'm not filming, put this aside for several hours and let it completely dry. But for filming purposes, I'm going to go ahead and take this out. These are needle nose tweezers. I got these at a quilt store, but you can probably buy them through medical supply places as well. And this isn't tied in a knot, so I go back to where my tie is, and with these pliers, or tweezers, sorry, I carefully go in and just get underneath that template fabric paper, between the paper and the fabric, and pull it out. And that way, without my fingers in the way, and especially you need to do this with really small circles. And using this template, this method, I've made circles as small as a hole punch size, just perfectly. You're going to pull this tight back into shape and go ahead and hit it with your iron one more time. And that just ensures that your circle is correct. Now, if you do end up with a little bit of bumpies, and sometimes I still do, especially when I'm filming and not taking my time with it, you can go through and as you're sewing this down, take a stitch in that bump and pull it back into place. So, that's how you do the gluing part for your dogwoods, and you're going to make 3 of these. And once you get all 3 made, then it's time for us to sew them together. And I do things kind of in an assembly line process, so I do all of the same thing at one time, and I just get it done faster that way. But make 3 of these, and then next week I will show you how to put them together and then sew them together. We'll glue baste them together first, and then we will sew. This is Starla Henderson with Fronterhouse Quilts. Thank you for joining me, and check me out on Facebook, Fronterhouse Quilts, as well as on YouTube. You can subscribe to me, and every time I upload a video, you'll get a notice. Thank you again.